Cross inside to Stevenson. Up against Kaminsky. Bucky good in the foul.
Santel all the way to the basket. Foul. Lays it in for two.
All right, happy Monday, Wayne Finger Lakes basketball fans. Welcome into the Upstate Hoops podcast, brought to you by DeSanto Propane, Generations Bank, and Lil John and Barbie Orthodontics. More on all of them in a little bit. But I am Paul Russo, joined as always by Jim Sinicropi, Kyle Evans, and Nate Sharman, third floor, North Park Building in the FingerLakes1.com studios. Well, action-packed weekend, a little delayed. Of course, the weather had to get in the way at some point this year, and it found a way to do it. But action-packed weekend saw majority of the Wayne Finger Lakes teams in action come away with the title.
It's a good weekend for Wayne Finger Lakes teams in championship weekend. We've got 3 teams alive.
Mm-hmm.
Newark, Lions, and Waterloo Girls.
Yep. It's a fantastic weekend. We were there for a few of the games, so we'll touch obviously on all of that stuff. Anyway, I do want to shout out Kyle Evans, though. Great stuff all weekend by you with the write-ups and pretty much churn them out as soon as the ball went through the net to end the game.
Yeah, somehow it seemed like you got it posted before the game ended in some cases. It was
yeah. I actually did have some of them typed up a little bit and then kind of went and edited them. But, yeah, it was a busy Saturday, but it was fun because a lot of the local teams won.
Right.
Yeah, it is a really a great weekend overall, hectic. A lot of conflicts because the boys and girls sometimes playing at the same times, different locations. So, like Saturday morning, I called the game from the Blue Cross at 9 a.m., then kicked it over to you guys at Rush-Henrietta for an 11 tip. And I wanted to ask you guys, that was your first time calling a game in the Blue Cross, right?
Yeah, yesterday.
What did you guys think of that experience?
Well, after we completed 2 laps in the basement of Blue Cross Arena trying to find the right place to go up, it was pretty cool. Not going to lie to you. Being up in the play-by-play booth like that was pretty awesome, and the PA wire was a little bit shot for us, but we made it work. And it was like they were having some like tech difficulties.
Oh, really?
There. It was weird, really weird, but they got their end of it figured out. Didn't work out well for our end, but we were able to get a third mic rigged up and ready to go. And
you were plugging right into the. I gotcha. Yeah.
But the overall experience was awesome. Just awesome.
I agree, Paul, and it was a lot of fun and especially different too. Watching the games played in there.
Comfortable.
I still like. I think I like games in gymnasiums though better.
100%.
I don't know. I just like having the atmosphere and just everything too. It's just I think offenses kind of tend to struggle in that Blue Cross arena. It's just so much different than anything you've played in all year. So I kind of go back to why change it up.
Well, calling a game the Blue Cross is kind of strange because you're up there in the rafters and there's not a lot of crowd noise and you're excited because it's the championship game.
You're a little isolated,
and you
so far
sometimes
from
you feel like the whole place can hear you, but it's very comfortable. You got the nice suite behind you with the bathroom and the coffee station and
But the staff there, fantastic job. Once we got up there and stuff, very accommodating too. So thanks for the Blue Cross staff for having us.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into it. Our DeSanto Propane Championship game recaps. DeSanto Propane, 4 generations strong, is a trustworthy family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more information or call them toll-free at 1-800-752-4574 today. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane. We'll start on the boys' end of things, and before we jump fully into the Wayne Finger Lakes stuff, do want to note one of the other local teams here, AA Victor, come away victorious. The AA champions ended a 45-year drought sectional title one for them. Kind of crazy to think about. Beat the 6th-seeded Fairport team 66-54. Cam Ryan, 14, led the way for the Blue Devils. Nick Leonard had 13. A.J. Query had 12. So congratulations to Victor on ending quite the drought and getting the brick. And they are all set to go and wait until
they've had some good teams as of late, too. But you look at Victor and you think of the success they've had in other sports, specifically lacrosse, hockey, football. AA basketball is another level, So what a great athletic program. They had a great winter sports season across all their programs, but for Victor to get that AA championship late on Saturday night in Blue Cross Arena, really says something about what they've done with that program. It's a big deal.
Yeah, definitely. 1978. Can't tell you much about what really happened then, but I do know the Yankees won the World Series that year. So
yeah, that's one of the first World Series I remember. I was 6 or 7 years old.
Yeah.
I do remember that Yankee team.
So,
Ron Guidry.
Yeah, Louisiana Lightning, 28-3 that year, I believe. Right? Is that the year you won 28-3?
I think it was. Yeah.
Have to go back.
Bucky Dent,
Different podcast. For
Greg
a different
Nettles,
time.
Chris Chambliss,
Yep.
Oscar Gamble,
My guy Thurman.
Munson. Yeah.
So, but different podcast for a different time to go strolling down that path. Let's jump in though with the B1 championship game, as Newark came away victorious 60-55 over the top seed Batavia Blue Devils. Braden Steve led the way with 18. Rayshon Howard had 15. Kellen Foster at 12. J. Parr Allen 10 for the Reds on their way to another championship block.
I think this was a game I was at, and it was, I think, the best game of the weekend across all the games we were covering. I mean, it was back and forth, 14 lead changes. Talk about tough shooting in the Blue Cross, and not for these teams. They were both shooting the ball. Well, Batavia kind of struggled from beyond the arc for a lot of the game, but both teams were outstanding from the free throw line. I think Batavia was 9 of 10, and Newark was like 21 or 22 of 25. Yeah. And there was some discussion about, well, geez, the foul discrepancy. Newark having so many more foul shots than Batavia. But, you know, Newark was being a little more aggressive in terms of getting the ball inside than Batavia. And I also, you got to remember, too, that at least 7 or 8 of those attempts came down the stretch when they were sending Newark to the line. So there wasn't as big of a discrepancy as it appeared in the box score. I wasn't thinking of that being an issue during the game. I was calling. It was just nip and tuck, back and forth. Javion McFarland's had foul trouble. That might have been the difference, as he had to sit for most of the second and third periods. But Braden Steve hit an amazing corner three, the kind of shot you dream about as a kid. That thing might have even gone over the corner of the backboard on its way down. And he surprised me when he got it off. It looked to me, from where I was sitting, 300 yards away, that it was not a good shot. He was like half double clutch, off balance in the corner, horrible angle, guy in his face. And then it went through the hoop and just surprised me. Couldn't believe it, that it went in. And that was the shot that put him ahead to stay. Kellen Foster struggled from 3 for a good portion of the game, and then early fourth quarter hit a pair of huge three-pointers when they really needed it. Rayshon Howard, free throws down the stretch, sealed it. J. Parr Allen also had a couple nice three-pointers. I think it might have been the third period, maybe it was second, but at a point when they were struggling to score, he was able to drop a couple through. It seemed like somebody stepped up different points of the game, and it was really a balanced effort across the board from Newark, and that makes it back-to-back sectional titles. I think that's the 14th.
Yep, 14th.
In their school history. So that they're moving up there towards the very top of Section 5. They already were a top 5, 6 all-time. I think Minders is close to them. I'm not sure if they might have moved ahead of Minders there with that win, but yeah, a lot of Finger Lakes East boys teams really up there in the all-time Section 5 lists, and this is just going to add another one. Henry Caparis' second sectional title, and he was going against legendary coach and Buddy Brasky for Batavia. It was just a great ball game, and it looked like it could go either way. Never really got that feel that Newark was going to win it until the very end when that Braden Steve corner three went through, and then they didn't give it back because they were I think they made 7 of 8 free throws in the final, minute and a half, and that was end of story. So, and then they celebrated, well deserved.
Yeah, they I noticed in the semifinal game they really began to, I wouldn't say go inside out with it, but they were not afraid to kind of go inside in the interior. And so kind of hearing that portion of it, right, the aggressiveness, that doesn't really surprise me. And really, I mean, you got really the 4 starters right there, for example, with Steve, Howard, Foster, Allen. They're all on. That's a machine that, whew,
the Bueso kid
Yeah.
was
Carlos.
different. Carlos Bueso was a beast on the boards, offense and defense. He was also really good with the basketball in terms of he only scored 1 basket, and it was a big one. It was a little runner through the lane late in the game. Huge basket, but he controlled the basketball. He didn't turn it over, and he probably accounted for 4 or 5 extra Newark possessions that they might not have had if he wasn't hustling to either keep a rebound alive or secure a rebound. So a guy who didn't show up in the box score necessarily, but had a huge impact on that game. And every championship team needs a guy like that.
Yeah. Ball hawk.
Nuts and bolts, dirt and grit guy. And so
that's fun to watch play. Yeah, I liked watching him.
So I was really impressed with Bueso. But, looking back, I think it was January 28th, we were in the studio, and it was the podcast after Newark had lost to Mac, and they scored 23 points in the game. Remember that game, Kyle?
Yeah, and what was it, like 2 points in the third quarter or something like that?
Yeah, and I think I said that I don't see how this team can win sectionals unless something changes. Well, obviously some stuff changed, and they got it together, and 60 points. They almost tripled their output in the Blue Cross, and they scored in Palmyra-Macedon that night. So.
I think it was fair to say that, though, at that point of time. I mean, they were losing games that they shouldn't be losing, not scoring well. I think at that time that wasn't really the wrong thing to say. But like you said, they really picked it up, and they deserve this championship back-to-back, and congrats to them.
And now they're moving on.
Yeah, we'll touch on that in a few moments. Moved to C3 for the boys. One of the games affected by that weather on Friday gets pushed to yesterday on Sunday, 11 a.m. tip-off at Blue Cross. Lions coming away victorious over Wheatland Shiloh, 67-45. J.C. Walker, 23 huge points. He actually really was the guy who kind of sealed it down the stretch offensively. A couple, Nate, as you call them, acrobatic layups, to say the least. Michael Briggs, Jameer Johnson also had 8 points apiece for the Lions. 21st sectional title. How about that?
Second only to East High.
Yeah.
And they're 4th in the last 6 years.
Yeah, they're really picking it up.
And they're 6th in the last 11 years. Yeah. So they won a lot of titles.
Yeah, it was kind of something that got rolling again behind Zach Young as coach and Damon Hunter as a point guard. Moved into the Justice Smith era, handed it over to Dean Schott. And, they really got things rolling in Lions, really just dominating Class C over the past decade.
Yeah, they, talk about Blue Cross. They were able to make it, I wouldn't say make it work in essence, because I don't think they were really kind of, in my mind, live or die by 3 in essence. They really did a great job, I thought, inside, and, talk about stuff not maybe showing up in the stat sheet or anything like that. Like Jameer Johnson had a couple huge blocks defensively, really rebounding machine.
Yeah, I was listening to your guys' call, and you used the old send them packing line a few times with Jameer. And Jacob Size didn't do a lot of scoring, which you usually think that in a game of this magnitude you would need at least a double-digit type of effort from him for them to win. But they really locked it down defensively. J.C. Walker was enough to carry things offensively, and against an athletic Wheatland Shiloh team, we're able to get another sectional title, and it was close until early fourth quarter. Then they started pulling away.
Yeah, 21-7 run in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, Wheatland Shiloh was kind of hanging around a little bit. And, me and Nate saw them, in person calling that game down in South Seneca a little bit, and kind of realized that, definitely a bit of a deceptive 6 seed, but really that fourth quarter, I think once Lions really got that momentum fully back, because like you guys said, right, Wheatland Shiloh was just kind of creeping around.
Schwenenbraun was keeping them in it almost single-handedly in the third quarter.
So
that was
Bailey Henshaw.
Henshaw?
Kind of doing that, yeah.
Schwenenbraun was good, too.
Yeah. Schwenenbraun was kind of the reason they were still scoring anything, really, in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and they're a very young team, right? I think these guys
collectively,
yeah.
Schwenenbraun's a freshman. And then Leighton Williams, who was second in C3 in points, is a sophomore.
The only senior graduating for them, I think,
Bailey
off the top
Henshaw.
of the head is Bailey Henshaw that has the meaningful minutes type stuff. So,
I thought Lions wanted it more in that game. I know that might sound silly, but I thought in that first quarter where there was a couple real kind of lapses for loose balls on the offensive and defensive side, and I thought Lions was able to come out with those, and that was just huge. And to me, it just looked like they came out ready to play. Coach Schott does a nice job getting his guys ready, and I thought they just wanted it more at the end of the day.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, I don't think it's not like I disagree with you in the moment, but I think like looking back on it, right, when you're able to kind of dissect it from the further you get away from it in a sense. But like I definitely see what you mean, because like maybe not in the first quarter, but the first half, a couple moments in the second quarter, right? Like Jaden Lopez for me is always kind of like the one that sticks out defensively for
and
Lions.
He started so good too. I think
right.
he scored the first basket or two
yeah.
for Lions, and he had a couple steals early too.
But, right, I mean, second quarter especially, I remember him on the ground a couple different times, just going after it. Michael Briggs as well.
Briggs had a great game.
Yeah, he gets a lot of steals. Briggs does.
Right.
Yep.
So I mean, I definitely see where, Nate, you bring that up, how they wanted more, where that really just kind of hones in on that at that point anyway. So that wraps up the boys stuff. Let's transition to the girls, and before we again get into the Wayne Finger Lakes teams, shout out to the Canandaigua girls. First sectional title since 2009 for them. As they defeated Pittsburgh Sutherland 55-46 on Saturday. Maya Herman had 25, leading the way for them. Julia Ginter had Geithner had 14. Appreciate that. So I think they season swept Pittsburgh Sutherland as well.
Yep,
in that.
they did.
So just dominating stuff from the Canandaigua Braves girls for first title, like I said, since 2009.
Yeah, Julia Geithner's the sister of daughter Pat Geithner. I can't remember. I'm drawing a blank on his son's name, who scored the had like how many points do you have for the Bloomfield a few years ago in a single game? It's like 62 or something. It wasn't 62. It was a lot.
Yeah.
They're playing for Canandaigua. I'm sure the Bloomfield girls program wish they had her, but she really did something historic along with Maya Herman and the rest of the Canandaigua Lady Braves, winning that Class A sectional title.
And they're off until Far West Regionals as well, because there's no crossover for the girls.
That's a nice bonus for Class A.
Yep. So let's transition over to B1. Another game that was supposed to be played on Friday got postponed because of the weather, pushed to Saturday morning, 11 a.m. tip-off at Rush-Henrietta. Waterloo and Palmac. Waterloo coming out 65-47, guns blazing in the third quarter with the victory.
They were losing at halftime.
Yeah, it was a crazy game the first half, and I remember talking on the broadcast about it a little bit. It was kind of crazy to me. Both teams, for a little bit, they weren't like closing out defensively. I'm like cynical. Like I've never seen either of these teams all year not close out defensively. And Waterloo, to their credit, kind of came out in the third quarter, made that adjustment, I'd say, a little bit quicker. Yeah. And that just transitioned, honestly, over to that third quarter run that they had, 25-2, I think it was, or something like that.
One of the most amazing stats of the weekend, Waterloo has lost 5 games in the last 3 years. Yeah. 4 of them to Palmac.
80-5 now. In the last 4 seasons. They're 80-5 now in the last 4 seasons. 4 losses to Palmac, 1 to Sharman.
It's unbelievable.
1 in the state Final Four. Yeah. So you look at this matchup and you think nightmare for Waterloo to having to play of all the teams. Right. They got to play Palmac. But they kind of exercised that demon there and got the win.
Leading the way for Waterloo, the 3 I'll call core seniors: Morgan Carabaya had 22, Jasmine Lewis had 17, Natalie DeSanto 10. I'm not surprised when it mattered most that those were the 3 who kind of spearheaded the offense and defense, for that matter, for the Tigers.
Yeah, Jasmine Lewis was always most known for her defense, and this year she's contributed. Yeah, I guess last year a little bit too, but really,
it seems like late last year she came on really offensively.
Right, and that's added another dimension, especially this year without White Principio in the middle. They've kind of had to reinvent themselves a little bit. Now, that was also strange. Start that game, they tried to start Logan Amadon, right?
They listed Tia Laux as the starter, and then Amadon came out, and they got a technical foul.
Yep.
I'd never seen it before. I mean, I knew it's one of those things in the back of your head that could, in theory, happen. But
I've seen it once before.
That was a first for me.
I remember Paul was just knocking on me like, "Oh, look, Logan's coming in to start," and I'm like, "What is going on?" And I was all confused, and then I started the game with a Molly Seether free throw.
Yeah. And she missed, and so no harm, no foul. Yeah. Well, no harm, technical foul. So what I was wondering was, is that a coach technical, a bench technical? Like if Coach Bree got a technical later in the game, would that have been an ejection?
They called it a team tech. So I don't know what that fully means at that point, I guess, in a way. I guess it goes a technical bench, I guess. But either way, I obviously didn't matter in the long run in that sense. But
be right back.
Yeah. But
wasn't there another incident too with like who should start with the ball? I remember you guys, the refs were confused.
Yeah, I think that was the second quarter,
off
wasn't
the
it?
tip, there was a jump ball. And because Waterloo technically won the tip, and then Logan Amidon, I think, caught it from Morgan Caraballo, and then they got tied up. I can't remember what she got tied up with. Georgia
I think
Worth
it was Hodgins or Worth, yeah.
Either way.
Yeah, there was some confusion, I remember, with that whole situation.
So, Paul Mack, Taryn Goodness had 10, Georgia Worth 10, Erica Mitchell 9.
Goodness and Cedar were really good in that game.
Yeah, still a great.
They did a nice job breaking the Waterloo press.
Yeah, still a great season for the Red Raiders, but just came up a little bit short again. But they're a fun team. That's a team again. I think moving forward next year could be really fun to watch and really cause, in my mind, havoc within the league.
Yeah, Taryn still got 2 more years, right? She was a sophomore this year, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely not going anywhere.
No, definitely not.
And Hodgins will be a senior next year. I think she's a junior, so
correct. Yep,
for sure.
Fifth
Georgia
year
Worth's
senior.
only a 9th grader, so gonna keep getting better and better.
Yeah, I think of just looking at that Palmac team, I can't say how impressed I was with the player that Taryn Goodness has become. This is the first year I think that she really had to she's just a sophomore, but she really did have to kind of become the floor general. And geez, man, next 2 years are going to be fun to watch her.
All right, the last game to touch on for the championship weekend, C2 girls, Dundee Bradford coming up short against Pavilion, 3 versus 4 seed in that game. Kendall Parker had 17 for the Brave Scots. A really great season, though, out of the Finger Lakes West for Dundee Bradford. Had to keep an eye on them really the whole way for them. And 45-36 loss to Pavilion.
I think we underestimated them a little bit all year. Just they're a fairly young team. They won't fly under the radar next year.
No.
I expect to see them back in the sectional final next year. I mean, Kendall Parker averaging 20 points a game as a sophomore. Just imagine what the next 2 years will be like. And, she's not alone. Their second leading scorer, Kaylee Yeoman, just a junior. Alyssa Eves, just a junior. They do lose some seniors, Tricia Edmister, Lily Hall, Brianna Bear. But 21-3 this year. Great season. And like I said, the core, I think it's their top 3 scorers, definitely their top 2, but I think the top 3 scorers are coming back next year. So look out, and this is all done in the Finger Lakes West girls was really a pretty dominant league for smaller schools. Going back 4 or 5 years ago when Red Jacket was really good, South Seneca was going to state Final Fours, Bloomfield was really strong. I think we're seeing a bit of a resurgence in that, and I think it'll be Dundee Bradford kind of being the preseason favorites heading into the season next year. So, and you see it a lot too with the teams that have youngsters, underclassmen as their team leaders, at least statistically. They got to get there once, sometimes twice before they break through. So, we'll reconvene next November and talk about Dundee Bradford.
Definitely. Them and Bloomfield kind of led the charge out west this year, so keep an eye, obviously, on all of them. And that will wrap up, though, championship recap as we now shift our focus to the playdown games. So that's brought to you by Generations Bank. Generations Bank has been serving the financial needs of the Finger Lakes region since 1870. Generations combines the best of modern banking with dedication to our local communities. Whether you are looking for a checking account, CDs, a home improvement loan, you name it, have what you need. They are committed to serving and giving back to our communities. Visit them online at mygenbank.com. Generations Bank, member FDIC, and equal housing lender. So,
before we get into this, I just think there's some people that maybe might just need an explanation of how this works. So we had the sectional championship games. So in class B1, B2, C1, 2, 3, D1, D2, those are sectional champions, and now they move on, but Section 5 and all the other sections send one representative from each class to states. Class AA, Class A, Class B, C, and D. So look at what happened in Class B. B1 champs Newark, B2 Wellsville. Well, they need to play each other to determine who their representative to the state tournament is going to be. And in this case, they would go to the Far West Regional where they would play Section 6's representative, because Section 5 is always playing against Section 6, and then the winner of that goes to the state Final Four. So in the case of Class C, where Section 5 produces 3 champs in C1, C2, and C3. It's 2 games got to be played this week before the Far West Regional this weekend, so that'll be Tuesday. And what's even worse is they determine seedings for that mini playdown tournament by a variety of factors, one being sectional points, in which Lions and Pembroke were tied. And then they actually had a couple more tie-breaking scenarios that they were also tied, so they flipped a coin. And Lions lost the coin flip, so now Lions has to play a really tough game Tuesday night at Marcus Whitman against North Star Christian for the chance to move ahead and play Thursday night against Pembroke for a chance to be the Section 5 Class C representative to the Far West Regional, in which they would play Section 6's, I think it would be, actually, I don't know who it would be.
They have a play down as well.
Yeah, they have to play down. But the Class B representative, I think, in Section 6 is Fredonia already. Do we know that?
No, they play Lewiston Porter tomorrow as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how it works for you, in case you were wondering.
Yeah, so it's a bit, I wouldn't say chaotic, but when you fully understand it, it's pretty straightforward.
But in the case of the Canandaigua girls,
right,
they won the Class A. There's not A1 or A2. And the same thing with the Victor boys, double A.
Yep.
Since there's no need to play down, they will advance all straight to the Far West Regional.
So let's talk about those play down games. Start with the boys B. You kind of tipped it off a little bit. B1 Newark champions against B2 Wellsville. Champions there at 7 p.m. Wednesday night down in Penn Yan. Neutral site game.
Really not neutral, they call it, but it's a Finger Lakes East Court. It's a lot closer to Newark than Wellsville, which is right down there on the Pennsylvania border.
As I jokingly call them, Pride of Pennsylvania anyway.
Yeah, it's
hard to find a neutral site in geographical location with Wellsville.
I've made that drive to Wellsville a couple times, and it is a hike. It's a different world down there. Beautiful town. I know that a lot of folks from Wellsville watch this show because whenever I've been in the gym with Wellsville playing, I've had some people comment. It's a really basketball crazy community, and it's no surprise to see them there again. I mean, they're really, really successful program from the farthest reaches of the southwestern corner of Section 5.
All their sports seem like they're good. They always have somebody involved in postseason tournaments for all sports.
Yeah. So Newark's going to have their hands full, and I actually remember this scenario played out in I think it would have been Nate Beard and Brian Sharp's senior year for Newark. Where they met at Mount Morris, and Wellsville just cleaned their clock in a game that I think Newark may have even kind of been favored in to end Newark's season. So Newark, I don't know if they have revenge on their mind from that game in probably 2018 maybe. But the advantage for Newark getting to play in Penn Yan, which is 70 miles, I think, on the dot away from, which is the limit.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say it's 75, I know that. And there's nothing 5 miles further, any radius, I'd say, from Penn Yan at that point. Wellsville 14-9 on the year. But, like we've been talking about, I mean, I remember even going back to when I was in high school, Wellsville gave us problems at Minders all the time. In fact, ended a couple different seasons. They play everybody tough, and it does not matter, it appears, the year to do so. I mean, they weren't supposed to probably make it to the championship game if you go record-wise based on it anyway. But they did.
Were they, a 6 seed?
I think so. They were one of the lower ones.
It looks like towards the end of the year they lost 4 in a row, so they kind of were falling down a little bit. But then now they won 3 in a row, and so they might be a dangerous team to play right now.
And generally, the B1 team will be the favorite over the B2 team. B1's a bigger school, but you can't base it only on that. I'm definitely going to be boning up on Wellsville ahead of our broadcast on Wednesday night.
Yeah, so let's now transition over to the C portion of it. Jim, you alluded to it a little bit here through the chaos of it all. Pay no attention to our notes here behind the scenes because it's games at Marcus Whitman now tomorrow night, 7 p.m., as the C3 champions Lions are the de facto home team neutral court site against North Star Christian out of C1. Now, these two teams aren't exactly unfamiliar with each other. Go back a couple of years ago, they had a big non-league game, I remember, at the community center, for example. So
they also met in Geneva High School once, and they met in the same playdown scenario before. I think North Star Christian has won all those games.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
Wasn't the last one? Am I wrong though? It might be 2019. I think it was.
Yeah, it was the two brothers for North Star Christian, leading scorer in Section 5 history.
Yeah.
Miles Brown.
Yep.
And his brother, anyways, it's a private school, which is a whole nother argument we're not going to get into right now. In other words, they move around classifications based on how good the Section 5 competition committee thinks they'll be preseason. So not a huge fan of that. But and Lions has run into these so-called private schools, charter schools that have ended runs with C.G. Finney a few years ago. And then it was Cal Mum, also a public school that ended their run in the playing rounds in recent history. So this is going to be a tough game. Legendary coach Ryan Garwood for North Star Christian is not the head coach anymore. But I expect the same type of North Star Christian team. I know that they have a lot of great athletes.
Mm-hmm. Seed-wise, they did upset Avon to advance and get the title. So the winner of that game goes on, as we kind of alluded to, Thursday, time to be determined, place to be determined against the C2 champion Pembroke, the Dragons. We did see a little bit of the first couple minutes of that game against York yesterday, myself and Nate, before we took off from Blue Cross Arena. They actually saw York up for a decent portion of that game, in fact, on Pembroke. So interesting stuff there. But I'd imagine that will be a pretty tough game no matter what. Pembroke probably gets a little bit, I would assume, of some of the teams from non-league-wise from Section 6, I would assume, out that way. But I could be wrong. I don't know enough about them to go deep dive.
Well, one step at a time here. This North Star Christian Lions game, I think this is a better defensive Lions team I've seen in several years. And I think that's what's if they're gonna win or lose this game with their defense. Jameer Johnson in the middle certainly helps bolster that defense, but across the lineup, I think they're going to have to play smart defense. Can't give up a lot of shots to this North Star Christian team, and I think that Lions will be able to score their points. It's always tough to stop J.C. Walker, but defensively, can they keep North Star Christian, under 60 points, maybe even 55? I think they'll win the game.
All right, let's look at the girls' play down. Class B, the only one in discussion here. That's tomorrow, 6 p.m. down in Penn as well. As Waterloo takes on the B2 champion Hornell Red Raiders. So that will be... Got
to play the Red Raiders again.
Yeah, they have played Hornell this year, actually, though. 160-40 back. I believe it was their second to last regular season game, if I remember right. Hornell did end Minders this year in semifinal action last week, but I would expect Waterloo to take care of business once again against them tomorrow night.
Hornell relies on the three-pointer, so if they're launching threes in that Minders game, and that's what eventually made them win the game in that fourth quarter, right, when they went on that run.
Very true. Yeah.
But if things aren't going well for the Red Raiders of Hornell early in that one, it could be scary for them. I think Waterloo can kind of see that and take advantage of it, but you never know. The threes could be going in, and that could be a good recipe for Hornell if they want to take down Waterloo.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I know where we've evolved basketball-wise, but the three-pointers still,
they take long ones, though.
Still the lowest percentage shot in the game.
They take some long shots, and we saw that against Minders, right? And then we even saw that a little bit. It was after that Waterloo game, right?
Yeah.
Early.
Against Dansville, yeah.
Waterloo relies on it, too. I mean, Waterloo shoots more threes than anybody. Now, if they're not getting a steal and scoring in transition, they're shooting a three. Those are like the two ways that Waterloo scores.
To me, it looked like Hornell took some deep opportunities, and they like to settle for those, which isn't necessarily a bad thing to do. But yeah, it was struggling to me with Hornell because it looked like they were off in that first half against Miners. But like I said, they were on in the fourth quarter, and they came back and won that game.
Well, let me put it this way: if the line was Waterloo minus 20, who would you put your money on?
Waterloo.
Yeah, I think Waterloo wins by like 25, honestly.
Heavy favorites.
Yeah.
Might be a game for the first quarter, but that's probably about it. They'll go on their run like they always do, and then they're unstoppable.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Nate, you want to chime in?
No, I think I'm going to stay out of that one.
Yeah, so I look at the three teams that we have remaining here. Waterloo probably the best probability to advance into the Far West Regional. I think it's a great opportunity for Newark, and I think that Lions, not only the fact that they have to win 2 games to get there, but this North Star Christian has been an albatross around their neck. I think if I was to rank them and most likely to see them in the Far West Regional this weekend, I would go Waterloo 1, Newark 2, Lions 3. But all three, I believe, are probably slight. Lions is still a slight favorite to come out of that Class C, so we could see three teams in the Far West Regional. Boys being played in Rochester, girls being played at Buffalo State.
Yep. Speaking of that, let's touch on the Far West Regionals, and to preview that, we'll have that courtesy of Lil John and Barbie Orthodontics and their outstanding orthodontic team. They share a common goal to ensure the overall wellness of each of their patients through their exceptional orthodontic care. Dr. Rod Littlejohn and Dr. Liz Barbie are proud to support our area high school athletes. You can check out Dr. Rod and Dr. Liz online at littlejohnortho.com. So, Far West, as you mentioned, Jim, boys are here staying in Section 5 up in Rochester this year. Girls over in Buffalo at Upstate. Alternate sites every year for that, boys and girls respectively. Double A mentioned a little bit Newark. They already know they're facing Niagara Falls. That's 7:30 p.m. at Rush-Henrietta on Saturday. For the B, Newark advances, they will face the winner of Section 6's Fredonia Hillbillies and the Lewiston Porter team. That would be a 1:15 p.m. scheduled tip at Gates Chile at the moment. Saturday. Sorry, I had to say Hillbillies. Like, I've never. That's just what a mascot name to have for a high school.
It's offensive to hillbillies.
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
I need to change it.
I don't know if I have room to talk being the motorsports junkie around here, but yeah, I mean, that's just. Also, you're going through there. That doesn't strike me as hillbilly territory, to be honest, but whatever. The C boys, obviously Lions, or Pembroke, whoever comes out there, they'll face Section 6's Randolph. That's at 11 a.m. also at Gates Chile on Saturday. Randolph, I know exactly where that is. That's outside of Jamestown, for those who don't know.
Difficult matchups for any of them if they materialize. Well, we know Victor's will. Let's see. Alma mater, Johnny Flynn and Paul Harris. Right? Niagara Falls? Yes.
Yeah. Paul Harris, jeez. You want to know what? I was a Paul Harris guy, though. I never liked how he was always in the Bayheim doghouse.
Yeah, I love Paul Harris.
Either way, I digress. The girls' side of things, Canandaigua, they don't have a play down, but Section 6 does, so they'll face the winner of Hamburg and Williamsville South, 7 p.m. Saturday at Buff State. So that'll be an interesting one there. And then Waterloo Hornell, they'll face Section 6's either Depew or Southwestern at 5 p.m. at Buff State. I know Newport was in the running there, but they got upset along the way. So a couple different teams that we aren't used to seeing.
Just look at these Far West Regionals in the Class B boys. Allegheny Limestone had a great team. They were upset, so that might be something to help out. But really, don't know much about the Section 6 teams. You never do when you, at least, even games that we were assigned to broadcast, just try to get some info. And, it's kind of a mystery, tough to scout if you're a coach for such a huge game and also such a slow turnaround because you can't plan on being at the Far West Regional yet, right? But the game's Saturday.
Yeah.
But you got some games to play before then, so take care of business first, and then you just a really short turnaround before you're all of a sudden playing for a chance to go to the state Final Four.
Now, the beauty of it is, unless you're unfortunately the boys' C side of thing, is, if you handle business Tuesday, if you're Newark, you already know that Fredonia and Lewiston Porter, they're playing on Tuesday night as well, so that's at the very least a positive that you can quickly turn around. Obviously, same with girls' B side as well, so remain to be seen. Quite the exciting stuff on deck. We aren't quite done either going to the gyms. We'll be live courtside tomorrow night in Penn Yan.
We got a twofer.
You'll be courtside.
Simulcast.
Whitman, yeah. FL1. We got the Radio 1 and Radio 2 going for the next couple of days.
Yep, look for the proper links on our homepage.
Yep. And we'll also be trailing everybody, Newark as well, on Wednesday down in Penn Yan. So we'll be all over the place still as usual.
And then Thursday, who knows?
Yeah.
Before we go, just championship weekend, what's the one moment that stands out to each of you guys from the weekend?
Ooh, on the spot. I'll go. Honestly, I'll go. Morgan Caraballo had a really great stutter step layup, and I don't know if it's just because we were right there on the baseline calling the game. Yeah, that really stands out to me. It was just a really awesome move. Either that or J.C. Walker, the second of the acrobatic layups. He took a ton of contact midair, adjusted really well, and kind of finger rolled it in.
All right, Paul, don't take all of them.
I'm sorry.
Go next. I'm
sorry,
go next, but I'm going to take Jim's, I think. The Braden Steve double clutch three-pointer.
Yeah, that was kind of one of them that was on my mind, too. That was out of nowhere, just kind of at the time that ball was in the air, I would say it wasn't looking great for Newark. And then it went through the hoop, and all of a sudden it looked like Newark was going to win.
Then they made some big free throws after that, too.
Yeah, the free throws for sure. Kyle, anything stand out to you?
Well, I mean, I was only able to listen on the radio, but I guess I could say something that kind of surprised me. The Dundee Bradford girls being held to 36 points was kind of surprising to me, but Pavilion did a great job. They're a good defensive team, but yeah, that would probably be my biggest surprise of the weekend.
And it'd be interesting to see if that Pavilion team is as good as advertised now heading forward. Although they're not a team we cover in the Wayne Finger Lakes, maybe they'll be the representative for Class C on the girls' side. Heading to the far west. So, yeah, for me it was that Braden Steve 3 is still burned in my head from so far away up there in the rafters of Blue Cross.
It's too bad we didn't have it on video and we can't post it anywhere because it would have been interesting.
Yeah, well, I would say that probably is, along with Colin Foster's 2 3-pointers early in that fourth quarter, were probably even bigger than that Steve shot, just because at the time Foster was not shooting good. I think he had an air ball or two too, and when it came right down to it, Newark was struggling to score, and Batavia had built a 2-possession lead. He knocked down these 2 threes, so that I'll go with that. I'll go with that since Nate took mine.
Yeah, I apologize.
But you took Nate's.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. You get all these games, and there's a lot of great moments across the board that you can really pick from.
I also remember getting into my car Saturday morning. First of all, what's really burnt into my head was getting up at 6 in the morning to get to the Blue Cross for a 9 o'clock tip, and going outside, and there's snow all over the car, and get up there and everything. But it was great to be in the Blue Cross, to see Newark win, and then I get in my car, start driving home. I pull up your guys' broadcast, and it was 16-5 Palmac. Yeah. So you were thinking then, if you told me then that Waterloo was going to win by 20-something, but actually I shouldn't be surprised, But I was pretty shocked to turn that the feed on for your game and hear 16-5 Palmac. I was like, oh, this is interesting, and then it was great game right until the third quarter. So yeah, another championship weekend in the books. A lot of 3 trophies coming back home to Wayne Finger Lakes schools. Victor getting their first title in 45 years, whatever it was. And Canandaigua girls getting their first one since 2009. So a lot of good stuff. Yeah,
well, it's definitely. So make sure everybody, like Jim said, keep an eye out. We'll have the links posted as the really the night/morning goes on here. Make sure you keep an eye out for Kyle Evans' write-ups.
Yep, and I'll link the games back in, so you can re-listen.
Yeah.
So for Nate Sharman, Jim Sinicropi, Kyle Evans, appreciate everybody for tuning in. We will keep everybody up to date as we get forward here and moving forward for these Wayne Finger Lakes teams. Have a fantastic week, everybody, and good luck to the teams still in contention.